If you're looking for a great tomato, one that's firm-fleshed, heavy in the hand, right? Meaty but silky in texture, fruity aroma, the kind you can slice and put on a really great salad, the type that you can puree into a beautiful soup, or just eat from your hand like an apple. You're talking about the kind of tomato that you're probably only going to find at a farmer's market, a farm stand, a really expensive grocery store, or a restaurant. I mean, sure, you can find something that looks like a tomato at a big box store. You can, but we all know it ain't going to be the same. There's just no way. I mean, I'm not talking about flavor and preference here, though as the son of displaced farmers and a chef for over 30 years, I can tell you that where there is flavor, there's definitely joy. No question about it. There is. But as the father of 2 children living with diabetes, I can tell you that I have learned that where there's flavor, there are nutrients. Where there are nutrients, there is health. So, wouldn't it be a perfect world if everybody could just get their hands on a really great tomato? But it's not a perfect world. There's this thing that we call food deserts. Food deserts. And that's what the CDC defines as areas that lack access to affordable fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and other foods that make up a full range of a healthy diet. Under that definition, almost the entire state of Iowa is qualified as a food desert. Isn't that amazing? Big agricultural state. But the food deserts most of us are aware of are the urban food deserts right now. You know, all that concrete. It's not there. Advance it? Oh, here we go. Watch. Food deserts. State of Iowa. Okay? There we go. Sorry, guys. I was just going to go through it with no slides, man. I was cool with that. When you look at all of that concrete, no grocery stores, no good food, you have to ask the question, where do you get your food when you're living in a food desert? Well, it's a Quickie Mart, right? A corner bodega, a convenience store, or my personal favorite, a liquor store. Talk about one-stop shopping, right? Huh? But many of you know this. I see a lot of smart people in the crowd. In fact, you look really smart. You look so smart that I think now it's time for a pop quiz. Yes. And today's multiple choice question is, why are there no grocery stores in food deserts? Why are there no grocery stores in food deserts? Or decent tomatoes for that fact. Well, perhaps it's because people in these communities are lazy. I mean, you've seen the images, people sitting around, vegging out, and that's the only veg they get in their diet, right? Okay, getting fat on food stamps, right? And crying poverty. I've heard this before. Or B, people in these communities don't care. They don't care. I don't want healthy food. I'm only going to shop the center aisle because that's the stuff that I like. Why open a grocery store in a community where nobody's going to buy from the fresh section? Why do that, right? Okay? Or is it C, because people in these communities leverage getting sick? Hey, it sounds funny, but listen, if you think about it, in these communities, diabetes and obesity is most prevalent in these communities. And we've heard the analogy, hey, I can get fat eating junk, then I can go to the doctor, and I can get free diabetes medicine because I'm poor, and hey, I don't have to work because I'm sick, and then I can collect disability. Isn't this the way that most people in these communities kind of like milk the system? We've heard of this before. I've heard of this. Or people in these communities are just hooked on junk food and value meals. So ladies and gentlemen, is it A, B, C, or D? Right? How about none of the above? How about the reason why people can't have grocery stores in these communities or good tomatoes is because they just can't afford it. They can't afford it. They can't afford it. It's that simple. It's that simple. And why can't they afford it? No jobs in these communities, right? I mean, no jobs near these communities. Limited services, limited retail, if any at all, and just no money. No money in these communities. So when you're living in a community where nobody has any money, it becomes incredibly important to figure out exactly what a dollar might buy. Now, a dollar will buy a whole lot of some things, but not a whole lot of others. So everybody remember Food Inc.? Any Food Inkies in here? Food Inkies, right? Pretty cool film. Remember the family in the van that were buying the dollar meals? In some of the communities that we work in, that's an affluent poor family. That's an affluent poor family. We've worked in communities where entire families have $2 to spend on dinner. $2 left to spend on dinner. So when you have a family of four and you got to put something in front of them, and a head of broccoli costs $1.99 and a 4-pack of instant noodles costs $1.69, what are you going to put in front of your family for dinner? A bowl of something hot, not a quarter head of broccoli, right? Think about that. So the news flash, ladies and gentlemen, in these communities is that the choice for these folks is not between a chicken vegetable dinner and a value meal. It just isn't. That's all there is to it. Now, you might wonder, and our good friend Ken Cook here helped us understand this a little earlier today, why is processed food so inexpensive and a great tomato so expensive? Well, it's because we have all these subsidies and billions of dollars that are going to 5 crops, one of which you cannot eat unless anyone's ever tried salting their jeans. Doesn't sound delicious to me, but the other 4 that you can eat make up the largest amount of ingredients that go into all processed food, including meat fillers. That's why you can get a bag of snack chips or some of those cheese thingies for 3 to 5 times less than they should sell for. They've already been paid for. Imagine that. So, I was thinking, if you kind of can take some of that money there, that $9 to $12 billion, just not much, just $1 billion, maybe $2 billion, move it over to fruits and vegetables, but fat chance, that's not going to happen, too many embedded interests. And besides, you're kind of pitting farmer against farmer. No outcome there is going to be good. It's just not going to happen. So at Wholesome Wave, me, Gus Schumacher, some friends of ours, Michael Dimmick from Roots of Change in California, we've been kind of kicking this little idea around. In fact, we've been kicking it around with 30 nonprofit partners in 20 states and over 160 farmers markets. And it's called the Double Value Coupon Incentive Program. And you know what? It works. Yes, it works. Basically, this is how it works. Somebody on SNAP goes to a liquor store and buys a pasta meal or a big old can of Franks and beans, and then a couple of cream-filled snack thingies that you can divide in 4 for dessert, that's fine. Knock yourself out. We're not into restricting choice in communities where this is the only thing that's available and it's the only thing that somebody can afford. We're not into that. But you know what? If they want to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, we double their money. We do. It's like a 2-for-1 sale. It's like a 2-for-1 sale. The idea, introduce affordability, and choice becomes possible. Choice becomes possible. And it does work. I mean, these are 4 communities in the early days that you're going to see that before we even had our act together on outreach, which we still don't fully have it together, but SNAP redemption rates at markets that accepted SNAP benefits were up 300 to 700%. And in our second and third year, we're seeing over 1,000%. And it's created revenue opportunities for farmers. In Rhode Island, they did $700 in SNAP before the program. After the program, $22,000. $22,000. So wouldn't it be kind of cool if the USDA, the government could kind of find their way to just say 1%, 2%, find 2% more to put into SNAP in the form of these incentives. That would be $1.2 billion in incentives or $2.4 billion in sales to fruits and vegetables. But we're talking about a bureaucracy here. I mean, we feel like we're making some progress. We feel like we have a good argument. We've been collecting the data. It looks kind of good, but it's a bureaucracy. It could take forever. Who knows? It almost seems like what we need is a superhero, Really, a superhero of a changed food system. Somebody who could rise up from the streets. Seriously, I'm serious here. Rise up from the streets. Just make things happen. And I know it sounds like silly wishful thinking, but, Superman could leap a tall building in a single bound. He could. Well, he had a superhero wish list, right? The superpower wish list was Man of Steel, faster than a speeding locomotive, X-ray vision, right? Well, our hero's going to kind of need the same thing. Their wish list would be to be able to break the cycle of poverty, to save local farmers, right? Reduce the cost of healthy food, reduce healthcare costs, and put power back into the community. You know, it sounds silly, but I think I got just the guy. I want you to meet a guy named John Culinaria. Now, don't judge a book by its cover. He doesn't look like he's up for the task, but hear me out, okay? John lives in Anytown, USA. Seriously underserved urban community in the middle of a big city, ethnically diverse, Asian, Hispanic, traditional African American, Haitian, Jamaican, diverse but poor, unemployed. Johnny's been in and out of work for 20 years, okay? But get this. This guy makes kick-ass curry goat. He does. I'm serious. In fact, the people of Anytown say John makes the best curry goat, not only in Anytown, but in all of any land. So, what happens if we put John in the curry goat business? You know, I bet if John had a food cart like Danny Meyer did, you know, on Madison Park, he had so many food carts, they helped finance the opening of his first Shake Shack. Knowing what I know about food carts, I'll bet John could clear, I don't know, $300-500 a week. And look at him, he's looking pretty good now, right? Okay, he broke the cycle of poverty. He broke the cycle of poverty. So me and a really dear friend of mine, Michael Schwartz from Michael's Genuine Food and Drink in Miami, got to talking because Michael's a restaurant owner, but he also owns a food cart. So we kind of paper napkined it and said, what would it take to put someone like John in a curry goat business? So we ran some numbers, and we figured out it would be somewhere between $7 and $10 grand, but that was after a couple of beers. So he and his team and Jackie and all the folks there kind of got together and said, hey, you know, what does it look like if we really go for this based on what we do with our food carts? Soup to nuts. Training, working capital, inventory, insurance, commissary fees, licensing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. $9,938. Talk about a microfinancing opportunity, right? But here's the deal. Food cart operators aren't the only potential superheroes in these communities. They aren't. Many food business opportunities here, like Super Snap Woman, who takes her double SNAP dollars to the farmer's market and spends them with Fantastic Farm Family. Fantastic Farm Family also takes the field-run seconds that they've been growing and sends them to Value-Added Producer Guy, who turns them into all kinds of wonderful prepared foods to replace the chemically laden junk in the center aisle in the freezer section of the grocery store, as well as some of school food. And he makes really great special sauce for Curry Goat Man. Now, Fantastic Farm Family is feeling a little depleted from all this superpower activity, so they take the double SNAP powers and they go and they spend it at Curry Goat Man's cart to charge up on Curry Goat. Curry Goat Man's low on special sauce, so he takes the double SNAP dollars and he goes to Value-Added Producer Guy, loads up on more special sauce so he can keep the power and the money circulating. And here's the great thing. This is where the community comes in. Value-Added Producer Guy can now afford to take his family to the movies. So then, citizen movie ticket clerk takes their money, goes to the community-owned grocery store like a Mandela Marketplace in Oakland, California, or a People's Grocery that buys from local producers, spends the money, takes a great dinner home, and then charges up on some curry goat on the way out there. So, you know, it sounds crazy, and it's going to take some money, no question. And when we're talking about money, let me help you understand something. We're not talking about taking any more money out of the wallets of taxpayers. We're talking about taking the money that's been removed from our wallets, repurposing it in a way that allows money to get recirculated in these communities. And this is the part I like the most. Look at all those Benjamins, man. Look at them. I mean, they're beautiful, they're green, there's a whole bunch of them, and there's a lot of money out there. $60 billion in SNAP, $10 billion in WIC, $5 billion in community development finance institution money, PRIs, MRIs, grants, loans, risk management, all these monies, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars every single year into the American economy to limited effect. Now, right now, the larger pots of these money are focused on just a couple of ideas when it comes to food access, like big box grocery stores in underserved communities. What about multiple food businesses? Think about this. What happens if you have a value-added production facility that can employ a few hundred people and help solve the problem with school food. Community-owned grocery stores, food carts, food delivery trucks, urban farms, vertical farms, restaurants, bakeries, all contracting with one another, ensuring that they're going to keep money in these communities. Imagine that. Imagine that. That can affect real change. That's the type of stuff that can do it in a meaningful way. If we look at the opportunity to repurpose this money in a way that it can do that, we can actually empower our superheroes, right? Because with these types of resources, I believe that they can break the cycle of poverty, that they can absolutely change the food system. They can reduce healthcare costs and will reduce the cost of healthy food. They will put power back into the community and do it in ways that creates permanent change, that creates the type of cultural significance that ensures permanence, that brings true ownership and recirculating dollars to these communities where neighbors can once again really truly rely on one another, and finally bring great tomatoes for everybody. Because isn't that what this talk was all about? Great tomatoes for all? A more perfect world is closer than you think. Thank you very much.